Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome. I am Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM and host of the Follow the Brand podcast and TV show. Curiosity, creativity, and challenge motivate my next guest, Steven McWilliams. He leverages his unique skill sets in operations, strategy, and technology to solve problems in his community and find ways that he and his team can impact the healthcare experience. McWilliams challenges us to cease using the old way of thinking to evaluate new technology that can limit the technical impact. Steven McWilliams is the Vice President and CIO at Georgia Hospital Association, the largest healthcare trade association in the state of Georgia. He joined GHA in 2015 and serves GHA as Vice President CIO overseeing IT strategic initiatives and operations. In this role, Steven has led many projects, including an enterprise CRM migration, hyper-convergence of the data center, and established the GHA Online Academy. Prior to joining GHA, Steven gained valuable experience serving as part of the IT management team at Oakwood University, a private not-for-profit university located in Huntsville, Alabama. There, Steven was responsible for web services and service desk operations. Steven obtained his Master of Science in IT Project Management and Leadership from Purdue University and his Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Oakwood University. Steven serves as a member of the Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society and the College of Healthcare Information Management Executives. Steven was a finalist for the 2019 Georgia CIO Leadership Association's CIO of the Year Award. Steven likes to spend time with his wife and travel when away from the office. Let us welcome Steven McWilliams to the Follow Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantabulous week on the Follow Brand podcast. We're going to take it all the way to Georgia. I love my Atlanteans, especially I'm in the Peach, Tree Club. People, you say peach tree, it goes with Atlanta, kind of like, makes it. We have the oranges here. They have the peaches there. We kind of come together. That is my brothers to the north. So we're going to talk to a chief information officer of the Georgia Hospital Association, who knows a lot of people in HIMSS, knows a lot of people in CHIME. He's been involved in a lot of these organizations. And we want to have a candid conversation with him about himself and his career and what his passions are really about. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Steven, I would appreciate it.
Yes. Well, thank you, Grant, for the invitation. And just Steven McWilliams, and been working at the Georgia Hospital Association for almost 8 years. Time really flies. And, just really have a passion about connecting with folks and, being able to leverage technology to solve problems. And so just continuing to look for opportunities to build strong relationships and just kind of go out in the community and see where the work needs to be done. I'm a man to make things happen. That's what I like to think of myself. And people have said, yeah, Steve, you like to do things. So I take that and say, okay, well, maybe I'm somewhere close in the journey that I need to be on. So that's how I would describe myself.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I want to get into, we're going to jump right into some fascinations that I have. A lot of people always talk about like how they got started, like what made them tick. How did they get into this profession of technology? I don't think you rolled out of bed at 8 years old and said, yes, I'm going to be, the chief technologist of an organization. So I want to hear a little bit before you got into technology, like what was that pivotal point that got you started?
Well, I think I would say when I was younger, there was a computer that my parents said that I could not touch. And so that probably was the thing that said, oh, well, why can't I touch this? I'm a very curious person. And so once I was told I couldn't touch it, I was curious from there. And obviously, as time went on, I got a chance to tinker and get certain games to work or discover new new features, I guess. This is an old version of Windows 3.0 or something. I don't know. So I was playing around with that and DOS. I think that's where I really was trying to figure out how to do DOS. I found little games. And so so I knew that was something I was very interested in. But as I kind of finished up high school, went into college, I thought that if I were to work with technology somehow, for whatever reason, it wouldn't be a joy for me. It would turn into something that was a task because now I have to get up and do this every day. I think I was just a little misinformed, maybe based on some bad early experiences with, the workforce. And so I thought I wanted to do production, TV production, or do something in the communications arena. So I went and did my undergrad in communications, but it's just interesting how this all works. I was pursuing communication degree, but yet all the while it seemed as if technology was chasing me. It seems as if when I was a student, I did like a student scholarship program, and I ended up working in the technology department there at that school. And so I ended up doing that for a number of years. By the time I got to my last year, I kind of realized, hey, I don't know why I'm running from this thing. I'm doing it basically as my hobby. I'm doing it as my way to get through school. And yet I'm pursuing this other path here that is still enjoyable. I have passion around that as well, but this is the one that I do. It's like it won't leave me alone. And so after I finished my undergrad, I ended up working in a technology role at a small organization, ended up coming back to that school and joining the IT department full time and working up different roles there. And I have to admit, it's just, I don't know. There's something about technology that seems fresh. It's never stale. It's like it's always moving. And so, it's been a slow journey for me. It's one that I've had to accept and kind of get to know who I really am and what really brings satisfaction. And I could definitely say that technology is part of that journey. And so that's kind of how I ended up getting into that space, just kind of entering into that role there at the school and working my way through their organization and just learning a lot and just being excited around every single turn. It seemed like, wow, a new challenge, a new opportunity.
No, that's one. When you're passionate about something, and then like you said, I love how you just said that, like you left it alone, kind of like step back, like, is this it? I'm not going to just go ahead and pursue this full time. I'm going to see, is this it or is it not? But it hung around and hung around and hung around, and then you just went full blown and adopted it, and it has served you well. I'm a little curious though. Would you consider yourself an app guy, a software guy? Are you more of a hardware guy or both?
I don't know if I would describe myself as either of those. I'm realizing I'm more of a people person. I like to work with teams to solve problems. I realize that I am not always the best one to come up with solutions. I like to work with people and come up, as teamwork and find different ways we can tackle something. And then whatever the best way is, we all kind of work on it together. If I were to have to choose, I'm probably more of a support person, more of a person that takes something that's already been built and developed and kind of make sure it maintains its functionality or extend its functionality. But I do have some experience on web development. I've done that on the creative side. What I've noticed on the creative or more on the development side is it takes a different skill set. It's interesting to kind of get some of the feedback. It's a little bit of a different experience for me, but I do appreciate being able to help folks when things aren't necessarily going the way they thought it should go, to kind of bridging the gap between their expectations and functionality.
I think that's again that's good how you define that as a people role, because you are a chief information officer. That definitely, you have to take concepts that are complex, make them simple, and then so that they're understood at the board level. You said on the Georgia Hospital Association, there's 150 or so different hospitals that actually roll up to your association, and then you have some relationships together. How do you describe a little bit about what your role is in the association, how that all works together?
Yeah, and let me make sure I be real clear. I think what I'm explaining to you now took time for me to really come to grips with as it relates to the people side of things. And so I think that does play a little role. It's like part of my maturity and growth to recognize and reflect on the reality as I was trying to figure my way through the journey. But at the Georgia Hospital Association, I am over operations, strategy. I have a small team. We take a look at the big picture. Well, I look at the big picture and kind of see, okay, here are opportunities, kind of work with the team. They come up with solutions. They come up with ideas. I love to brainstorm. I guess that's maybe the creative side. We say, okay, here's all these different ways we can do things. Or here's some challenges. Here's some threats. That's basically my day-to-day. Our organization is big on advocacy. And so we have government relations team, like I mentioned. We have lobbyists. I'm not a lobbyist, but what I do is try to find ways to support our hospitals, specifically on the IT side. And let me make sure I be real clear here. We don't consult. We don't, do work for the hospitals, but I look at myself as a resource. And so let's say, for an example, there's legislation that's coming down that has some, requirements that may not have been communicated clearly. I would work with our education team, say, hey, we may need some education here. I'll get the word out to our CIOs and their teams. We'll put the whole thing together. I know last year we put together some education, and we put an exercise together for security for all of our hospitals. That's always a hot topic. And so it really is a matter of just kind of bringing all of the people together, but where it makes sense, listening to what the needs are, and then trying to kind of solve toward that direction. And so that's kind of what I do here. And I enjoy it. I love it.
That sounds great that you stay on top of all the research. There is a lot that comes down, whether it's from a CMS or some of the other authorities that are out there. When it comes, we'll make sure if there's a ransomware attack that's going on, other parts of the country. It could hit, Georgia. You got to get the word out. Or if there's changes in policy, right, that are coming out that affects PHI, which is patient healthcare records. What does that look like? I wanted to ask you this. If somebody did want to pursue a career similar to yours, what kind of advice would you give?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could have predicted the journey that I'm on, but I'll definitely say this: do not give up. I think what happens is a lot of times people can hit barriers. They can be discouraged. Everyone's journey doesn't necessarily look the same. Some people may say they want to be in this particular role, and things as it relates to timing and expectations may not all match up. But I say this: do not give up. Continue to press forward. And, I also would recommend find people that are doing the thing that you want to do. If the situation allows, build relationships there. I think that will give you some insights and an opportunity to maybe get some guidance. I think you need to get an education. If you want to get to the role where you're managing, other teams, building teams, having to translate the language from the technology into maybe the business so that the business can understand. You have to translate some of that. You do have to get an education. So I always do say you have to prepare so that when the opportunity comes, you can execute. And so that was something that I had to learn along the way. And, I think it has proved itself successful for me so far. And I continue to try to stay on top of things and learn and educate myself. But I also, too, try to continue to keep people in my court that are maybe one or two steps ahead so I can continue to kind of evolve and press toward, moving the ball downfield and learning from the things that they've been through.
Now, got my curiosity up. But you're in a certain position. You have to stay with your pulse on the game. What's happening. You have to stay. What are the trends that are going on? So when you look at professionals, I mean, are you directly being mentored by another professional, or are you just gaining knowledge from different articles and podcasts and things like that? How are you staying ahead of the game?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I mean, it really does come down to relationships. What I learned the most, and I learned the most even from myself, but from others as well. I mean, when you do have something that doesn't go the way you plan, I mean, you learn a lot from that. And when you hear people share the stories, their stories that maybe have been embarrassing at the time, but once you kind of get past it, you can share those stories, and you can kind of learn a lot. I would say also, I do read books. I like to go to conferences, webinars. Conferences, really, that's where you can really build relationships. But webinars, same thing. I will look as they come through my inbox. If anything sounds interesting, I'll go ahead and join that. Just getting out there, getting involved, local societies, like you mentioned, hymns, chime, any of these types of professional groups that you can just come together. I just learned a lot just from all of these, and obviously listening to you and going on LinkedIn and just hearing about other people's experiences as well.
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to tell you, I've been in information technology 25 years. And I have to say this because it's important, is that I don't run across a lot of people of color, and specifically African Americans, in CIO roles. I could probably count on my hand how many I've had to interact with from a business standpoint. It's just the unicorn that's out there. You've been able to come up that mountain and plant your flag there in Georgia. What advice would you then give to different IT professionals across this nation that want to have those opportunities? Is there any words of advice?
Well, like I mentioned before, you can't do it alone. I am a person of faith as well. And so I think that plays a role in understanding kind of what your purpose is and what your mission is. The relationships that you've built. Definitely, I can say I am where I am now because of the relationships that I've built. It was because of someone that I knew. Somebody was watching, and all of this kind of did, combine to create this opportunity. And then not just did I have the opportunity, but it seems so far that I've been able to be successful. Not to brag about myself, but I think there are a lot of situations where maybe you are invited to come sit into a role. And if you're not prepared, it may be hard to keep that role. And some roles are just, maybe a little bit have term limits or something to that effect. But yeah, I really, when I reflect, it really wasn't something that I could have orchestrated. It really took the combination of all of these other things that were at play to kind of allow this to happen. And so, it's patience, and you just don't give up. So I would my advice is just keep remind yourself, why are you here? What's your purpose? And keep pressing forward. And I think you will be able to make the mark that you're intending to make.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star Business and Personal Branding Company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand. Well, what I heard you say, and especially during this entire podcast, that you can't just rely on your technical knowledge. You've got to have business acumen. You've got to understand finance, and then understand the purpose that you're solving with your skill set. As you see the healthcare technology landscape changing, it's changing right in front of us in a lot of different ways. How do you position yourself to be able to impact that type of change?
I was thinking about that today. I had someone ask me this question about, what do they see the future? How's the future of healthcare? And, what I've learned is when it comes to people and technology, it seems as if when new technology comes on the scene, we may tend to use old way of thinking to apply to the new technology, and that limits us sometimes. And so what I've been trying to do and remind my team is we got to allow the technology to innovate how we used to do things so we can do them in a much better, we can do them in a more efficient way. Don't let the past hold us back, our old way of thinking. And so I do think that in technology, we have some new things coming on the horizon. I think of right now, we've had lots of conversations about telehealth. I think COVID was a crisis that allowed for the acceleration of telehealth to be deployed and utilized. I don't think we saw the numbers of the usage of telehealth like we did during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And so I think that's an area where we'll continue to see capabilities grow there in that space. I think AI, I'm curious to see where that goes. There is, I think, another level to that we're going to see at play here. And we may start to enter something I would describe it as maybe the era of intelligence or artificial intelligence. So that might be something coming down down the road as well, and how that interfaces with healthcare as far as diagnosis, as it relates to the whole, the healthcare experience, being able to interact where AI is able to augment that experience and improve it so that we're able to have maybe lower cost healthcare. That's a possibility. So these are the types of things I'm kind of keeping my eye out. I really do believe with some of the security events that have taken place recently within the healthcare system, and, you have one place that has all the healthcare records, and, we're all trying to kind of protect the data. But I'm wondering if one day we may end up we may be able to control our healthcare record where it's something that's portable, something that we own. The hospital may not have it anymore, or something that we have to kind of protect. Maybe like, cryptocurrency wallets. Maybe we'll have like a healthcare wallet. It's something that we will take around with us. That way it's distributed. There's no one place to hack. It's something that's going to be on our responsibility to protect. I'm curious to see kind of how all of this convergence of technology and innovation is going to kind of work together so that we will be able to own our healthcare experience.
Yes, we have to get there.
Yeah.
It's a maturity standpoint, because there are people out there obviously want to get a hold of that type of information.
Yeah.
But I think now we've got some ways of mitigating a lot of that. So let's see how we can implement it. That's the main thing, as we get into some interoperabilities and things like that. I want to ask you this from a patient perspective and a population perspective, and just from the human experience. The problem that is obviously more significant than both of us, from your lens, that you're passionate about solving with your skills. How would you define that?
Well, I know right now I've been hearing a lot about going back to telehealth and how in our state, and I know just around the country, there is a digital literacy issue where you got some of the baby boomers or some of the folks that are kind of aging up and out. They are not able to leverage some of this technology that we have to perform telehealth, engagements with the healthcare system. Obviously, there's other issues as well, like access to broadband and issues there. But, I've been really seriously trying to understand and just kind of focus myself in on trying to solve this issue. How can I work with our lobbyists? How can our organization work with our representatives in the state to kind of solve access to technology, to broadband, being able to provide education to some of these areas where folks don't know how to use this technology. Even once you give them, once you are able to give them the computer or they do have that smartphone, they still need help. And so once we're able to once I'm able to continue to partner and work with others who have that same passion, I really do think we're going to make a difference. But it does take a group of people. It's not a one man thing. It's a little bit of effort from a lot of people, and then we'll be able to hopefully solve some of these challenges we have here today.
I agree with you. We can't maintain the status quo. Life is ever changing. We can't just hold on to the familiar. We've got to forge ahead into somewhat, there's risk mitigation, but you've got to understand you can't stay where you're at. That's not an option. You've got to really move it forward, or there's going to be a huge disruption that may or may not include you. I want to ask you this from a brand perspective. Those same people, those same hospitals that the GHA serves, and they're on technology committees, and then you communicate with them. What do you think they say when you're not in the room? How would they describe working with Steven McWilliams?
Oh, it's a good question. I think they would say I ask a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I like for the dots to connect in my head. And so I think they would say, I'm optimistic. I ask a lot of questions. I think I come up with I like to think outside the box. I guess that goes back to this whole idea of trying to bring old ways of thinking into the future, into these, new technology. This technology, I think back of, the internet, when the internet first came out, I don't think we really understood the impact. And then we started to allow it over time to change how we think about things. So someone came up with the idea, maybe I'll sell books online. Someone else came up with an idea, maybe we'll have these little auctions online. And the next thing you know, we're at this place where now we're doing healthcare, and we have wearables, and we have all these things connecting. All the things in the house all now connect. And so this is that progressive step-by-step maturity in our thought process. And as we move forward, it's easier for us to kind of think in new ways, because it took some time for us to kind of allow that to kind of sink in. Plus, younger folks come up and they're not as restricted by old ways of thinking, because they didn't have those old ways to kind of hold them back. They're able to kind of come into the situation freer and more open to be able to pivot. And so, I think that, going back to your question, when people, when I'm not in the room, I'm curious, they probably are saying things like this. I wonder what Steve would ask, or I wonder what ideas Steve would bring to the table.
I like that. I like the idea. And we're going to conclude here with one more question, because now I like where your thinking is, because, I grew up in that world that obviously a lot of things were physical. And then I remember, television was the main thing. Now is giving way to, cable and live streaming. Things have changed, right? Now we're seeing, yes, we have this digital presence, but now we see this virtual worlds are really starting to take some roots. It's going back and forward. You talked about some blockchain. You talked about some Web 3.0. You talked about some of these things. Give me your viewpoint. Let me say it like this. I'm going to have you project 10 years from now. I'm going to have you go project 10 years from now. And I want you to be able to talk to someone that either in college and they went to pursue technology as a career. What kind of conversation would that sound like?
Yeah, I would first start off by trying to understand their why. So I would say, so what made you want to do this versus something else? Let me hear a little bit more of how you came to this conclusion. And then based on, the way the conversation goes, I may ask follow-up questions, but I think that's the pivot. I think particularly when you're going through undergraduate, I think a lot of times you don't really know what you want to do or don't want to do. Now, there are a few that do know exactly what they want to do, and they've kept that the whole way. But I think the average person like me, I didn't quite know. I had some ideas, but I didn't know enough to know what I wanted to do or things of that nature. And I definitely can say when I was in undergrad, I did not ever see myself being a CIO. I don't even know. I mean, I guess the title CIO was around, but it was not something that was obvious to me. Kind of like what you said before, I don't think I knew a CIO growing up or even in undergrad, to be honest with you. So I think what happens is as you grow and as your experience grows, I would tell this person, hey, you need to keep your options open. So once you understand, why you're here, and you understand what your desire is to do as far as accomplishments in this world, I think, you just need to just continue to be open-minded and not necessarily hold strictly to that path that you have in your mind that you set forth for yourself. If I had set only to the plan, if I stuck only to the plan that I had in my mind, I wouldn't be where I am because I wouldn't have been flexible enough to get here. I would have been less risk. I would have been, closed-minded. And I would have said, well, here is the path that I've carved out for myself and I can't pivot. So, understand why you're there, be flexible on your journey. And then obviously, I would tell them, don't forget to help the person that's coming up right there with you or right beside you or right behind you. You can't just go there and then forget. So I would tell them to, make relationships while you're there in undergrad. You'll never know how those will impact you. But then if you can, be a mentor and help someone else that's a little bit behind you. If people have questions, be open to that. It's going to help you in the long run.
Man, what I heard there was like there's tried and true principles, ethics, morals, whether they're in the present, they were in the past, or they're in the future, that if you follow these grounded rules, they will get you to where you want to go, no matter what the future might bring.
Yeah. And I think that along the way, if you're like me, you may not quite see it day one, but as you go through the journey, it will become clear every step of the way. And then you will ultimately be where you need to be. And you will be able to share that story with someone else. So.
Well, this has been wonderful, Steven. If the audience would like to contact you, what is the best way?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn. That might be the best way. That's a very good question. I probably need to do better, get better at that side of things. But obviously, if you're in Georgia, the Georgia Hymns chapter or Chime, and there as well. So yeah, I look forward to getting a chance to meet and hear people's stories.
Well, this has been wonderful. I want to encourage the entire audience to continue to tune in to Follow the Brand. And they can find all of our episodes at www.5starbdm, and that is B for brand, E for development, M for masters.com. This has been a treat, Steven. I thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Oh, thank you, Grant.
You're welcome.